On this episode, I talk free books and the Go Open movement. This is Edtech Library episode number 7, Open Educational Resources. What's up everyone? I'm Mike and welcome to Edtech Library. On this episode, I'm going to talk about what are called Open Educational Resources, or OER. Now, to begin, I just want to define what these are. Open educational resources are defined as being high quality, open license, and online educational materials that themselves can offer some extraordinary opportunities for students to engage in and have equal access to these great materials. Now, this is hardly a new concept to the world. Think YouTube, case in point. YouTube is a great place for entertainment, but it's also a place where you can learn a lot. So in this case, we're talking about open educational resources. They are specific to education. Now, this is a relatively new concept, but the good news is that open educational resources have become a centerpiece for the Office of Educational Technology and will become a focal point over their long-term plans. So as they begin to make their way into classrooms, we can expect to see more and more support of this, not just from schools themselves, but from federal and state level entities. So before I go too far, I just want to discuss some of the baseline requirements to qualify as an open educational resource. So first of all, number one, these are free to students, teachers, schools in general, and of course the public, which is great because having these free materials cuts down on an enormous cost that schools bear in buying textbooks that cycle every 3, 4, 5, maybe even 10 years. Besides being free and open to the public, these resources can be customizable. Depending upon the license that is attached to the book or the resource that you're using, you may be able to customize it completely to meet the needs of your students. Now, OER databases vary greatly from one to the next. So in this particular look-in, I'm going to show you some resources that I've found to be particularly helpful, and I'll show you a little bit about how they work. But there's going to be a complete list of resources available to you that's going to be located in the description below. So in this look-in, I'll take a look at some of the ones that I found to be more useful, some of the ones that I like. They're certainly not the only ones that are out there, but we'll take a look and see what they have to offer. So here we are in the look-in, and today I wanted to show you 3 specific resources that I found to be not only helpful for me, but I think have a pretty large supply of different textbooks and open educational resources available to you that are not only ample in terms of how much they have, but they also have a diverse selection too, which is really nice. So here we are in the look-in, and I just wanted to show you today 3 examples of open educational resource databases that I found to be particularly useful or also very well maintained. And there are other ones out there, but these 3 sort of stood out to me, and they'll all be linked in the description below so you can check them out when you're done watching. The first of which is called Boundless. Now, each of these that I'm going to show you today are accessible through your Google account. So it's really easy, especially if you are Google Apps for Education School. You simply click to log in using your Google account and allow access, and you're in. So I'm in here in Boundless, it's called, and they specialize mostly in textbooks. Now, these textbooks they offer you cover a wide variety of different areas. So let's say, for example, I'm looking through here, and I'm going to begin by searching for an economics textbook. Now, they only have one economics textbook, so you can see it here. And if we look below, you can see an example of all the different content areas that are covered in here. Now, this material is a compilation of many different people working together, similar to like a wiki, but it is a little bit more thorough in the editing. Now, there are some open educational resources out there where anyone's allowed to put any content into it. So you have to be careful and certainly comb through what you're using to make sure that it's acceptable for your standards or your school standards. But you can see here, this is a pretty thorough textbook. And if I go into any one section, I can see the chapter, which it begins with a heading here, which I can see all the sections. So this basically looks just like a textbook that you would purchase and use online.
Now, these textbooks include not only pictures and, of course, the text themselves, but they also include some embedded PowerPoint templates or PowerPoint content, chapter quizzes, chapter tests. You can assign chapter readings and create classes. So it's a really neat tool because you're able to do a lot of things with this. And as I said, it's free. Now, if you really like a book, and for example, in my classroom, I've been looking for a long time for a good resource and have had a hard time finding a textbook that suits my needs. I actually found one here in Boundless under World History 1. So it's ancient history to 1600. So my content area is ancient history primarily, but I teach it to 7th grade students. So sometimes the material's the right place and the right time, but the content is a little bit too high level for my students. This, I found, is a great textbook. It suits my needs very, very well. And here we can see the content area. And you can actually adopt the book for your class. So if you really like the book, you can adopt it. And what that's going to allow you to do is to assign the book as is or customize it. So if I choose to assign the book as is, I'm actually able to use this just like with a URL. I can actually assign the URL to the students. They can log in and check out the reading that I've assigned. But I can also assign it in Canvas, which is an LMS that our school is currently using. I really like it a lot, and it's a really great tool or a really great feature for Boundless to include this in Canvas. And so I can assign these readings directly into my online course. So really neat feature there. So that's the first one. The second one I wanted to show you is called CK12. Now CK12 has a little bit different, I guess, take to it. A lot of their content focuses more on the maths and sciences. You can actually see here it says STEM teaching resources. So they focus primarily on just the STEM courses, but you may find some stuff outside of that. But I can search for anything, so I can look down here below to see some of the textbooks that are available to me. These are some of the quick searches. But you can also create classes. You can also create your own textbook too. So CK12, much like Boundless, gives you some flexibility with what you're using and how you use it. So let's say, for example, I really want a biology textbook. So I click on biology, and that's going to take me to the biology textbook here they have. These are some examples of different topic areas and also activities within them. But they also have flex books. And the flex books are similar to Boundless. You're actually able to take an entire textbook and you can use that textbook as it is, or you can customize it to meet your needs. Some of them, like this one, the CK12 Biology, includes a teacher's edition, a workbook, and also quizzes and tests. So like these are no joke. Like they actually have some really good quality to them, not just the content itself, but also some add-ons, which really in this day and age, if you're using an online textbook from a company, that is probably one of the bigger things. Is does it include things like workbooks and tests and quizzes, PowerPoints, and other interactive activities. Some of these free textbooks do that. So I can, just like the other website Boundless, I can actually adopt these books if I need to. And if we take a look at this side here, the panel over here, I can actually download this as a PDF, which if you have a class, like say, for example, your class is using iPads. If every student has an iPad, they can certainly download that PDF, and now they have their textbook with them all the time. You can also add it to your library where you can assign it to specific classes. So again, pretty neat features. And there's all sorts of stuff here. You can browse and find all different content areas. Like I said, mostly focusing on STEM. So you have engineering, technology, geometry, all these math courses over here. And as this movement grows, I would expect to see that even like CK12 will probably begin to adopt some additional resources beyond STEM. Last but not least is the OER Commons. And OER Commons actually has a whole bunch of different stuff available to you. They don't have as many textbooks, or they're not as textbook centric as some of the other ones. So you'll find all sorts of stuff in here. Again, you log in with your Google account. You can create. You can also connect with other groups or hubs, which are going to be focus groups that'll help you find the resources you need. But I'll do a quick search down here. Let's say I'm looking for a history textbook, educational level, let's say middle school, and I'll search. You can even search by Common Core State Standards. So here's my search results, and you can see I have a ton of information here, and there's some different textbook pieces. There's also some activities. You can see here's an example of a piece of a textbook. So Stamp Act Congress. Here they give you a general overview, and I can save this to my own specific account, use it later on. I can even comment on it here. And if I really like it, I can check it out. And here's the look. So it actually looks and feels very much like a textbook, and they have navigation menus up here. They have some additional links on the side here. You can use this within research, so you can cite the page. And then we can go on to the next page and see the next piece of content. So these look and behave very much like online textbooks. There really is very little difference. Now this one does have some ads in it, which I'm not a big fan of, but you can find these resources for free and customizable. That's pretty much a win-win for any teacher looking for educational resources. So these are just three of some of the examples that I found in the description. I will post some additional ones that I have found through my research. So I'll close this out by talking about some of the advantages and disadvantages to open educational resources.
So to round out this episode, I just wanted to close by talking about some advantages and disadvantages of open educational resources. Now, when we're talking about some of the advantages, I identified four big ones. The first of which is certainly probably the biggest, and that is the cost. Open educational resources are completely free to those who are using them. Now, depending upon the license, there are some limitations with what you can and can't do. But in general, when we're talking about open educational resources, the costs are a huge plus side to this product. Now, the next thing I identified is when we're talking about open educational resources, the last 10 to 15 years has seen a lot of customization kind of go the wayside in favor of standardization for testing. Now, as teachers, we're hired as professionals to bring our content knowledge into the field with which we work. And so open educational resources give us an opportunity to do that. The third big advantage that I identified is that they bring some level of transparency to the classroom. These resources are available in databases that can be accessed not just in schools, but also at home too. So these are perfectly open and available to all, including parents, teachers, schools, the public in general, and so it can really allow for people to access anytime, anywhere. So the fourth thing that I identified is something called open data. One of the things that is starting to gather some steam is the idea that schools are gathering all of this data within their school, and it kind of stays there. With that data, it's very difficult for schools to digest, analyze, and then turn that into new products or new teaching methods, new technologies. So the open data movement is about getting academic data and progress data related to student growth and then taking it outside to places like nonprofits, businesses, and other higher ed institutions, and then using that data to better drive the decision-making process that goes on in all four areas. So basically the idea is working together using the data that we have to find technologies, to find methods that are better going to teach or that are going to help teach our students better. So now we talked about some of the advantages. There is a flip side to this. There are some disadvantages with OER, which I wanted to briefly mention. The first thing is that the quality can be very uneven from resource to resource, from database to database. The quality and the rigor with which these materials have been gathered and maintained can vary greatly from one to the next. Now, the other thing too that you may see with open educational resources is there are a lot of them out there. However, very few of these databases are maintained to the same standard with which they were started. So you may find that one year you're using resources from one database, and all of a sudden the next year you go log in and use a textbook or a particular activity or website, and all of a sudden they're gone. So we have to be very, very careful with them because they can go out of style real quick. The last thing is that they are a huge detachment from the traditional mindset. It does take a big jump or a big leap of faith by schools to head this direction because it is a huge difference in maintaining your own materials, including textbooks, from year to year. And so it really takes a detachment from a traditional mindset. So there are a collection of 10 schools that have taken the Go Open Challenge this year, and they're located all over the country. And one of the great things that's happening is that they're getting some support, not only from the federal government with the Office of Educational Technology, but also some pretty heavy hitters like Edmodo and also Amazon are going to be backing the open ed movement. And so hopefully as this process goes on year after year, the process to adopting and using some of these open educational resources will be mainstreamed. So as more schools look to stretch the budget at this time and improve the quality and also the equity of access to high quality materials, the open educational resources that are available to us look to be a very viable option and very attractive solution. So I would expect that this idea over the course of the long term will definitely be gaining some steam. So in other words, open educational resources, you definitely want to check it out. That's going to be it for this episode of Edtech Library, Open Educational Resources. Check out down below in the description. I do have a few links in there on some of the links or resources you saw on the look-in. I do have a couple other links down there to additional resources that I've been gathering. So hopefully you enjoyed the episode. I'll catch you the next time around. I'm Mike, and thanks for watching.